Now, top story on World DNA. President Donald Trump has warned that Iran will be bombed, and that is if it continues to develop nuclear weapons.
Speaking to NBC News, Trump urged Tehran to make a deal soon or face consequences. And it was unclear whether Trump has threatened bombing by US planes alone or perhaps in an operation coordinated with Israel. Now, President Trump added that the US officials are in talks with Iranian counterparts, but he didn't give details about the nature of the talks. Trump's comments came after Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said that Tehran has rejected direct talks with the US but is always open for indirect talks.
The response by the Supreme Leader to Donald Trump's letter was delivered to the US contact in Oman by our brother, Dr. Abbas Araghchi. In that response, direct negotiations have been rejected, but regarding indirect talks, Iran has always been involved in such talks, and the Supreme Leader has emphasized that indirect talks can still continue.
According to Tehran Times, Iran's armed forces have readied missiles with the capability to strike U.S.-related positions amid ongoing threats of military action from President Trump.
Now, according to the Tehran Times report, a significant number of these launch-ready missiles are located in underground facilities scattered across the country, designed to withstand airstrikes.
And to discuss more, we have with us Colonel David B. Desroches, who is a professor at the Near East South Asia Center for Strategic Studies, National Defense University, and former Deputy Director for Peacekeeping in the Office of the Secretary of Defense. He's joining us from Washington, D.C. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Right. So now Iran has rejected direct negotiations with the U.S. in response to Trump's letter. Trump has responded saying he's going to bomb Tehran. Does this look like, is there open doors for indirect talks or a wider conflict?
Well, there's a little bit of subtlety there. Trump didn't say he was going to bomb Iran. Trump said Iran will be bombed. So there's a possibility that he was referring to unilateral Israeli action. There's a possibility that he's saying, look, this is just unacceptable. And if you're going down this road, some future American president may choose to take this action. So I think that there is a considerable room for maneuver here and negotiations. I think that the Iranians will, if they cannot enter in direct negotiations, they're always open to doing it through an intermediate such as Oman, which has done this in the past. And Trump generally, because his personality tends to obscure this, but he has been willing to listen to people on this subject in the past. I mean, in his first term, he did not impose maximum pressure. He did not withdraw from the JCPOA until 13 months before the end of his term. So the condition is not as bleak as it may seem at first.
Colonel, it's interesting that you marked that difference, that he said Iran would be bombed. He didn't say US would be there to bomb. But that's essentially what I wanted you to elaborate a little further. US is already involved with the encounters going on with the Houthis in that region. What are the chances that US gets into a direct encounter with Iran, or do you feel the chances are higher for Israel? And just an extension to that, even if that becomes the case, US is anyways involved with the Houthis, and if Israel gets involved in another encounter with Iran, what kind of impact will that have in the entire West Asian region?
Good question. So Iran, let me go backwards. So Iran has said that if they are attacked, they will attack every place that cooperates with the United States. So that's not just the states of the Arabian Peninsula, that's also Israel, that's also Jordan, that's also Turkey, that's also possibly Cyprus, and the base on Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. So that's a pretty, and they do have a missile, an impressive missile arsenal that can cause a lot of trouble, at least in the littoral of the Arabian Gulf between Iran and the Arab states. The next question is, with the possibility versus Yemen versus Iran, It is possible that the U.S. can conduct a strike on Iran. I think that it would probably be initially focused not at the nuclear facilities, but rather at the missile facilities in order to prevent just this sort of regional conflagration. Iran's strategy of burying missiles in deep space is questionable as to its efficacy. The greater concern is if the missiles are distributed around the country. Iran probably has already done that. The underground facilities are relatively easy to put out of action for a short period of time because all you have to do is just rubble the entryways around it. And of course, if you do what the Israeli forces did to the Syrian Hezbollah facility at Masyaf about 7 months ago, you can land forces seal it off, and once you get inside, everything can be blown up pretty easily. The final question is about the nuclear issue and the Houthis.
Yes.
The role of Houthis. I'm sorry, this is so long. We should give you 3 questions.
No, go ahead first. That is something we were going to come for nuclear, of course.
Yeah. Well, let me do the Houthis in Iran. So the Trump administration seems to regard the Houthis as a wholly owned subsidiary of Iran. So they think that if they're attacking the Houthis, they're attacking Iranian interests. And I think that if Iran wants the Houthis to stop, the Houthis will stop. And Trump has said as much. He said that basically we consider this to be Iranian. I think that that's probably simplifying it a little bit, but it is true that the Houthis don't have the capability to launch the attacks they've had without Iranian support.
All right.
Colonel David, thank you so much for breaking all of that down for us. And of course, there will be more to discuss going forward. Whether a threat is the way forward to deal with Iran at this point, we'll need to wait and watch. Trump has his own ways of dealing with Iran, as we've seen in the previous term as well. There'll be more to discuss in future. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.